welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to take you on a little plant tour around my house, which I promised in my last plant haul video. I think I'm just going to show you the foliage plants, and we'll go ahead and we'll do the cacti in their own video, and I'll show you what I've got in my cacti window, a little bit of like care tips and stuff. But for today we're going to go ahead and look at all the leafy type greens. So I'm going to try and give little like breakdowns or things that I have as I go. If I miss anything or if you have questions about any plants, just go ahead and comment and I will try and answer any questions you guys have. But I know this is going to be a long one, so I don't want to talk on a bunch now. We're going to start in the living room and check out my houseplant tour. So this is where the majority of the plants in my living room are, right in front of this window. And this is a southeast type window. So it gets really bright morning sun and then sun throughout most of the day. Right now it's a little overcast, so I'm hoping this will be a perfect time to film without the outdoor light messing it up. So something I struggle with is I enjoy doing home decor and plants, so I kind of try and have a fine line between having plants and decorating. I want them to kind of blend together. So something I recently did was went ahead and styled this up a little more. You can see I added in some wooden things for height and interest. I added some cameras, just some little things, and then the books are below. But let's go ahead and just get started. So this is a prayer plant, and that guy doing good so far, so I'm happy with that. And that planter came from TJ Maxx. I wanted to kind of play off of the whole like brass type thing because that's kind of what I'm doing. I'm doing white, and then you'll notice I have some brass touches in there, and we'll see that better when we come to it. So there's the prayer plant, and he is so much fun. If you don't have one of these are fun because they kind of close up at night. They raise to the sky like they're praying. This is my Hindu rope, and this guy has grown so much. I got this guy as a, I think, 4-inch pot at Walmart, and you can see it's got all this new growth here. Now, for what I've noticed is it looks like there's going to be nothing. It just looks like a stick. But it seems to do that first and then it fills out after. So if your Hoya shoots out growth like that, don't trim that off. That will get flower, or not flowers, that will get leaves eventually. And you can see little pieces starting to come out. So this next guy is my favorite plant in my entire collection. This is my string of hearts, and my husband bought me this one off of eBay. I have another one which you'll see in the dining room. But this one came from Logi's originally. And this guy grows, no kidding, probably like a foot a month. So this one grows like crazy. I've been just taking cuttings and propagating to kind of fill out the top of the plant a lot more. It started out as about 3 strands. Next to him is that banana I showed you in my last haul video. And I've still got those leaves on there. Just waiting till they are a little bit more brown before I go ahead and trim them, because I feel like right now he's been shipped, he's new here, and he needs all the help he can get. Next to that is my Ripsalis, and this is one of my favorite plants. I love how unruly and crazy this looks. And I'm just going close, you can see. I believe they had this marked as a Ripsalis pilocarpa. I'm not positive, you know, I'm not an expert on Ripsalis. I just know that I really like them. I like the whole epiphytic cacti thing, which means that in nature they would grow on other things like trees. But I just love the messy look of them. All right, going down in the back here is my rubber tree. And this is the one I got from the Sill, which those guys, their shipping, their everything was amazing. They give you a little care card. It also came with this little card that said plants make people happy. I've got that on my desk at work. So just overall a really great experience. And this guy is actually growing really well. You can see some new growth in here and then some back there too. And this is that date palm. Since my last video where I showed you guys the little experiment I was doing with him, 4 of the 5 dates have actually come through the surface. That guy is a little bit slower, but these guys seem to be just like popping up and growing like crazy, and it's really stiff. It's a very stiff plant, so I'm just kind of excited to see how far I can take this. I mean, I would love it if it developed into like a small palm tree plant. And then next to that is my Monstera. And if you've watched my previous hauls, I don't know if you really would remember, but this guy before had fenestrations. You've probably noticed now there really aren't any, and that's because I took some cuttings. It was getting out of control and overgrown. So I took the pieces that looked like the best cuttings and I have them propagating, and I'm going to go ahead and put them back in. And the best ones just happen to be the ones with the fenestrations. But you can see where I made some cuts. And I don't know if I'll repot it with this guy or just start those ones on their own. Next to that, I have my snake plant. And I picked this guy up at Walmart. He was, I think, $15. And for one that size, I think that's wonderful. And I don't water him a whole lot, honestly. I mean, maybe once every month, even maybe longer. I wait until he's pretty much completely dry because I know water will be the thing to kill them the fastest. And then up here, I just have two hanging. Let me just adjust the brightness for you guys. So these are philodendrons, and you've seen both of these, but you've seen that one in a different pot. So this is the one my grandmother gave me, and I had it sitting on top of my hutch, but I noticed that the soil was staying too wet. The pot was too big for it. So I went ahead and put it all into this smaller pot, and then I have a ton of cuttings downstairs to kind of fill it out. I do see one yellow leaf I gotta get out of here after. But, I mean, with all the trauma I've put it through, one yellow leaf is not the end of the world. And these are the Ray Dunn planters. Same thing with this one. This is the Philodendron Brazil and the Ray Dunn planter. So now we're gonna just turn over here, and I'm going to show you guys my Calathea orbifolia. And I don't think there's any other name for this guy, but I love him, and he is doing really good here. I don't want to jinx myself. You can see these are the types of leaves he came with, because I found him in a grocery store in the middle of a snowstorm sitting by the entrance. So he was getting, every time that door opened, he was getting cold air, then he was getting the heat. So he was just not living his best life. So I had him in my bathroom, and he just kept getting brown spots, and I could not figure out what was going on. I think between too much light, he was in a west window, so too much light and not enough water. I think his leaves were just browning. So this year I've moved him in here, and he seems to be doing really good. This is just a pebble tray to keep as much humidity around him as I can. But pretty much I keep the soil on this guy consistently moist. It's not sopping wet, but I never let it dry out at the top either. And these are all the new leaves he seems to be doing really well with. You can see this one just started opening these past couple days. There's a few more coming out. So to kind of get this guy in better shape, I've been doing kind of like a 2 in, 1 out type deal, where I get 2 more leaves would open up, and I will go ahead and cut one of the old ones off. And the plant is not going to be massively huge this first year, but all the leaves will be in better condition, and that's more important to me than having a monster plant, is having a plant that looks like it's cared for well. And then over here in the corner of my living room, I have another Sansevieria, and this one I got at a plant swap. When I got it, it was just the tall green one. That guy popped out since then, and it's just in a terracotta pot inside. The terracotta will grow. The terracotta will dry out much quicker. And if I was to pot that in there, it would be just way too much soil volume for the size of that plant. It would just rot the roots. But I'm really excited with how that one popped out a new baby, especially because this corner is not a ton of light. So now we're going to come here in the dining room. These are the cacti that I will show you in another video, but I do want to show you the plants hanging up here. So this is my other string of hearts, and this guy is doing wonderful too. This came from an Instagram friend, Houseplants and Coffee. So if you like plants, be sure to check out her Instagram. She's got a really good page. But this one's growing really great. This one actually gets a little bit different coloring than the one in the living room, and I'm guessing because this one gets more direct sun. It's the same side of the house, but the angle's a little different. So this one gets more of like a purpley red color on the leaf. And I'm trying to adjust the brightness. There you go. And you can see this guy actually flowered. So I was so excited when that happened. There was a bunch on this side of the plant. That is a Ruby Cascade Peperomia. And this one was hard for me to figure out for a while. This one I water less than I do my cacti, in all honesty. This one would rather be dry. As soon as it gets over wet, it starts dropping leaves and getting mushy. So this one I kind of just leave up there, water maybe once a month, and it seems to really enjoy that. And then down here I've got my string of bananas, which I moved into the dining room here. This was in my bathroom originally, and my bathroom window is a western exposure, and I noticed that a lot of the new growth it just looks kind of puny. Let me see if I can get that to focus for you guys. So it was just looking kind of puny, way different than the older growth. So I moved it in here. This is, like I said, a southern southeast type window, and I'm hoping it'll do a little bit better. I have some Sansevieria up here and a pothos, and I'll get to that. That is my Sansevieria cylindrica. I think they call it an African spear. And that was from IKEA over 1.5 years ago now. I love that guy. Not any growth that I can determine, but it's just a very kind of sculptural, fun looking plant. And then the starfish is the little guy over here. And then this is some type of a Sansevieria. I don't know the exact type. And then this right here is my satin pothos. Some people call it philodendron. Its real name is Scindapsus pictus, but this one's a really good grower. I had to move this in here also. I had this in my kitchen in a northern window that kind of juts out like a garden window, so it was almost like skylight. Way too much sun for him. And then the only plant I have on top of my hutch right now, and I actually have to move it to the left a little more because it's bugging me being like off center, is the moonshine Sansevieria. So now we're in my kitchen, and this is that window I was telling you that juts out. It's a garden window, but it's almost the equivalent of having a skylight because they get the full exposure on all sides. And this is where I have a lot of plants too. So I'm just gonna go ahead and give you guys a quick overview of these. If you have any questions about them, just let me know. Up top is my Pilea peperomioides. This guy I love. I got him in, I think, a 4-inch pot last March. So it's been like a 1.5 years-ish. And he just keeps growing. So I really enjoy him. Those are my air plants. Now that one is a Xerographica. And I love that guy. I don't actually do any of the dunking or soaking they talk about. I just run him underwater once a week until you notice that the light green will kind of turn dark. And I don't ever I try not to ever like rub on his leaves because you'll ruin the, I think they call them trichomes. And that one there, I don't know for sure what kind it is, but I went ahead and tried to like compare it to pictures online, and it might be Atallanzia, I think Harrisii. So I could be wrong, but that's the one it looked closest to me. Now down here is my black pagoda lipstick plant. And this one seems to be really happy right now in this location. You can notice the little leaves all at the ends that are like a lighter green color that don't have that dark purple on the back yet. That is all new growth since I brought it home like a month ago and put it in this location. So I'm really excited about that. Then going down to this bottom shelf, this is where I have the majority of my epiphytic cacti. So in the back is my Thanksgiving cactus, and I love him. Its segments, I don't know, they remind me almost of like crab legs or just kind of like alien-like, and I just really enjoy the look of that, how they're messy, unkempt, kind of crazy. So he's from IKEA, and he is from January of 2018. So I've had him for a really long time. He does great. This is a rickrack cactus. And then these are all the Ripsalis. That one was the Drunkard's Dream one that I showed you in the last video. That's the mouse tail. And this one I am not positive of its ID. And pretty much what I do with these guys, I do a mixture of houseplant soil. I do about half houseplant soil. Then the other half I do perlite and orchid bark. That way it kind of can be as close to being on a tree as possible without actually being on a tree, if that makes sense. So this next one is a Hoya, and I got this one as cuttings at my plant swap, and then finally they were rooted enough that I went ahead and potted them up. Now this one is hard to see from here, so let me just bring this down for you. Now I think this is just the Carnosa version. I am not positive because they didn't have the exact kind written on it. But I love the speckling. I love how they're kind of like thick and just fun, you know? So I'm excited for this. I don't care that for me, Hoyas seem to be extremely slow growing because I like the way it looks right now. So if it stays this way for the better part of a year, I will still be happy with it. And that's in one of those Rae Dunn planters again. Now this next one is that Syngonium that I picked up at the yard sale and probably made my entire weekend, maybe my entire month, which sounds so silly, but like $4 for a plant at a yard sale that looks different than anyone you've ever seen, and I was so happy. So the thing that makes this different than any of the other Syngoniums I've seen is that the leaves get these weird, like almost like lobes at the top. So I'm just really excited for this guy. He's fun. I can't wait to see what happens as it gets older. And every time I look at it, I kind of relive that moment of seeing it there on the table and just being excited. Here I have a few cuttings that I have here because my other window is full. So this is the Hoya Kentiana I showed you in my last video, which I broke while repotting. So I'm hoping that will root. I'll just stick it back in. And then these are some cuttings of my string of bananas. I've been doing a lot of cutting this season. I'm trying to get the plants to kind of fill out. In the spring and summer growing season, I like to take a lot of cuttings and then make the smaller ones thicker and more bushy. And I've been doing a lot of that. So I'm going to bring you over here where my cuttings are. And I know these technically aren't plants because they're not in soil, but I want to show you guys anyways. So this is the Monstera cuttings, and I'm just waiting for those guys to get some more roots, because what you can see now, the white ones, they were actually like the aerial roots, but they're starting to look pretty good. This is some string of heart cuttings from the one in the living room. These are some Adansonii cuttings from my front porch because I have my Monstera Adansonii outside and I wanted to have one inside. So we got those guys going. I've got a bunch of string of hearts from the one in my dining room because it got so long it was like hanging onto the cacti below it. So I'm gonna make a plant for my mom, and then if there's any extras, I'll put them back into that pot, make it thicker. All that in the back is goldfish plant cuttings, and that is a plant that I have turned out to love. It's on my front porch, but I wanted one inside, and it would make a really wonderful hanging basket. It grows fast. When it has flowers, they're really pretty, and it's another one that's pet friendly. And then I've got some cuttings here from that Silver Pothos, Scindaptus pictus, whatever. I've been doing the same thing with that. Anytime it gets to a certain point in length, I chop it off and propagate it to fill out the top again. And I know it's a slower way of getting a fuller plant. You could just go out and buy a couple and group them together, but I kind of like to watch the changes. And then this is a Marble Queen Pothos cuttings that I have just waiting to root. So now I'm going to bring you in here to my bathroom and show you this up here is a kangaroo paw fern, and I've got that planted in 3 little plastic pots inside. That way I can bring them out and water them and let them dry. And I actually need to do some work on this guy because I just noticed he's got some drying leaves. So I got to take care of him a little bit after. Now over here is where I moved my Hoyas from the dining room. I noticed that the leaves on this one here on the right were starting to turn a little bit reddish brown, and I figured sun damage. Then I did some more YouTube research and I found out that they really don't want direct bright light. So I will show you like this here. See how that's like, I don't know if you can see. This thing never focuses when I want, but the edges of this are browner, and some of the leaves were starting to get that, so I pulled it out of the window and brought it in here. This is a west-facing window. Normally now it would be getting that golden sunlight, but it's overcast, so this is kind of just normal light today. So I've got that one. It was marked as a Hoya bilobata, and it came from Lowe's. And then that's the Kentiana that I showed you in the last haul video. And even though it looks sparse right now, I kind of like it. It's neat, and I'm waiting to see if this one will grow fast. This one's not doing terrible growth-wise for me, and like I mentioned on the one in the living room, I'm going to bring you in closer here. It will grow out kind of empty and like sparse looking, but then the leaves start to fill in, so you can see little guys there, they're going to turn into leaves. Little one there starting to grow, and it seems like all the branches are doing that. They kind of grow out long and stringy first, and then they fill out. Then I've got my rabbit's foot fern here, and this is one of my, I don't know, I love this plant, but it's hard. I have them and they do wonderful for like 5 months, and then all the foliage starts turning brown. You can see a few pieces in here, and I keep it consistently damp, and I missed it, which I know they say is equivalent to trying to heat a room with a match, but I really enjoy misting because it gives me a chance to look them over each day. But I don't know, I repotted it. I thought maybe it needed a new pot. This is actually my second one. The first one I had did the same thing. Wonderful for 5 months, then everything went brown and died off. So I'm thinking it might just be the life cycle, and then it will start to regrow. You can see on the little foot part down there the green. So, I mean, it is getting new growth. So that might just be what it does. Then this one here is the hardest plant to say because I don't really pronounce it wonderful. It just sounds so weird when I say it. It's called the Fatsidera. So it's like a hybrid or a mixture between the Fatsia japonica and the heterohelix ivy. So I think they call it a tree ivy. But I was excited when I saw this guy at Lowe's because I've never seen it in person, and then I had to kind of do my research, and that always makes it more fun for me when I don't know right off the bat. And finally getting new growth. And if you guys have this one, or if you're thinking of getting this one, the reason it's in here is because it did not like the southern or southeast windows at all. When I had it in those windows, it kind of drooped and looked wilty even though the soil was moist. So as soon as I brought it in here, and within a couple days it perked up and it looks good. And then the last room we're going to visit is my bedroom, and I've got this section here and I have one hanging in the window. So this room will be short, but I have some plants in here that are low light tolerant. So I've got my Sansevieria trifasciata, I believe they call it. And this is one of the newer pieces that grew. Hasn't had anything this year. That came out last spring. So we got that guy. My ZZ plant, which this guy is awesome. I want to try and find a raven one because I think that would be kind of cool to have too. But for now, I'm good with this guy. And then this is my Aglaonema Maria, also called a Chinese evergreen. It does have one yellow leaf, which I have to trim. And I imagine that's just a result of bringing it, you know, from conditions, which would be like a greenhouse or something good, to a lower light condition. So that's okay. I will keep an eye on it if more of it goes bad. But I've got a little secret here. I kind of tucked a light back in there, which my husband makes fun of me for, but I'm going to go ahead and turn it on. So that is an OttLight OTT. I found that at a thrift store for a few bucks, and they market it as like one of those natural full spectrum kind of to help with crafting or seasonal depression. They have ones for all of the different things. So I thought, you know what, why not? Let's see if it helps the plants. So I turn that on pretty much every afternoon and just leave it on. And then the last one I have to show you guys is over here. This is my lipstick plant, and I kind of moved this guy around. He's back in the bedroom right now. He was in the living room before. If the plants are not super picky, that's something I do to kind of give them more light. I don't know if he's a plant that appreciates west windows, so I wanted him to have more sun for a few months, and then I'll bring him back in here. And I'll switch him back and forth to keep him happy. But I just love how he cascades over his pot, and it looks really nice in here. So thank you guys for coming along on my houseplant tour. I hope you enjoyed seeing how I have everything styled. I will do the cacti in a separate video, and thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.